It's good? All right, folks, it's 3 minutes after 1. We'll get started with a roll call.
Anthony Agresta, probably working. He's excused. Ray Baker.
Here.
William Beavers.
Here.
Dan Bixby.
Here.
David Brennan.
Here.
Sidney Chase.
Here.
Kenneth Chakowski is working. Rebecca Danino. John Farquhar.
Here.
Tim Foster is excused. He's working. Dr. Fisher.
Here.
Tara George.
Here.
Owen Hahn.
Here.
Margaret Houghton. Howard Huth.
Here.
Lou Jones. Victor Jones is excused. Ken Kurt.
Here.
Jim McCready.
Here.
Elizabeth McGowan is here. Tim Maraboli is excused. Peter Nichols. Tom Pasquarelli.
Here.
Aaron Robinson.
Here.
David Simmons.
Here.
Thomas Smith.
Here.
Mark Souza.
Here.
Michael Schwartz is excused. Judith Tiffany.
Here.
Carl Turner.
Here.
Damon West is excused. Margaret Wilson.
Here.
We have a quorum, sir.
All right. Introduction of guests.
Our guests are Sierra Fountain, Mark Hodgkins, David Simmons. You're not a guest.
Sorry about
That's okay. Vinny We Met from the Dark Side, and Josh Gusty. That's it.
All right. Everyone should have received the minutes from February 20th. Any questions on those additions, deletions? If not, I'll take a motion to approve. Howard?
Second.
Dave? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Good.
You did.
I did?
Yeah. Also did it.
Okay. Correspondence will be in there in the minutes. I don't really have a chairperson's report this month, so we'll move right on to the secretary's report.
The only thing I have for the secretary's report is the 2 enforcement actions. Ronald Jocko Jr., I'm not sure what area he's from, but for violations of Part 800.3 AL, 800.3 AM, and 815.A. Suspended 1 year effective 2/27/25 and until such time as the respondent completes a paramedic full refresher without challenge and passes the New York State Advanced Emergency Medical Technician recertification test, whichever is later. 3-year probationary period, assessed a civil penalty of $2,000. The other one I have is Ryan Morgan for a whole bunch of violations of 800.3 AL, 800.3 AM, 815 A1, 815 A2, 816 A1, 816 A2, 816 A3. Suspended for 1 year effective 2/21/25. Suspension is stayed pending no violations for 3 years, $100,000 civil penalty.
All right. Treasurer's report.
Okay, REMSCO savings opened with a balance of $4,155.07. No expenditures, deposit of a whopping 11 cents interest for a closing balance of $4,155.18. REMSCO operating account, $17,537.97 with expenditures of $1,132.13. No deposits for a balance of $16,405.84. The CON account with an opening balance of $21,574.83. Expenses of $58.80 for a balance of $21,516.03.
Myself, Sid, and Jack also reviewed all of the check registers and accounting information for the month. And Jack?
Everything is fine to be in order.
That being said, I will take a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
I make a
So
motion.
Tara, Sid? Any discussion? If not, motion to accept? Or
There,
vote? Yeah, whatever. You know what I want.
any opposite?
Have we ever heard anything on the loan, getting that back or anything yet?
We have, I have spent, I'm going to guess, somewhere around 12 hours waiting on the phone to try to get to these people to even figure out any of that information with no success. So Beth and I are gonna get together and we're gonna have to draft a letter, or, I mean, we don't even know how it was ever taken care of. I mean, Phil did that all on his own.
Yep.
And while we have some paperwork and we know what the loan is for, we have no other information whatsoever. So, and like I said, I've spent all of 12 hours on the phone just trying to contact the SBA, and it's not been successful at all, so. All right, so do we vote to approve the treasurer's report?
Yes,
Okay, perfect.
we're done. As long as everybody else thinks we're done.
Committee reports, regional program agent update.
Tim is off today, I think trying to ski in this nice warm weather. Did not leave me a report, but I still want to report that there is still no program agency contract. Do you have any update, Vinnie?
I do not.
Okay.
You probably know more than I do.
And it's gotten to the point where program agencies did not send representatives to CMAX REMSCO because they didn't want to expend the money. And a program agency closed this week due to lack of funding. We enter the fourth quarter of the year without a contract on April 1st. People have written legislators, people have talked to comptroller. It's very, very frustrating. It is not a bureau slowdown, it's whomever the bureau sends it to for processing.
Beth, would it be worth reading the letter into the minutes? Do you have it?
I can get it.
Did anybody here not see the letter? So everybody here has seen the letter? Okay. And it wasn't a small region either, it was Buffalo.
And I think they cover 3 different. Getting there, sorry guys. Didn't anticipate this.
Sorry. I didn't know it was gonna come up either, I should have thought about it.
Dear EMS community, this is from UBMD, Emergency Medicine EMS Division. Dear EMS community, it is with a heavy heart that we announce the closure of UBMD EMS Program Agency, effective immediately, due to the loss of critical grant funding through the New York State Department of Health EMS. After over 20 years of dedicated service to the EMS community, we are deeply saddened that we must discontinue the programs that have supported EMS professionals, educators, and agencies in their mission to provide high-quality care and emergency services. The UBMD EMS Program Agency has been privileged to work alongside so many remarkable individuals and organizations, and we are incredibly grateful for the unwavering support, collaboration, and trust we have received throughout the years. The efforts of the EMS community have allowed us to achieve milestones and make a lasting impact, and for that, we extend our heartfelt thanks. To our partners, staff, volunteers, and the many EMS professionals who have worked tirelessly over the years, your commitment has been invaluable. We sincerely appreciate the dedication you've shown in ensuring the safety and well-being of the communities you serve. While this is the end of a significant chapter for UBMD EMS, we are confident that the EMS community will continue to thrive, innovate, and inspire in the years ahead. We are grateful to have been part of such an incredible network of heroes. For agencies that feel they need assistance with New York State Department of Health paperwork, recertification, PCR data, limited lab licensure, or questions about EMS operations, etc., they should contact their agency medical director. EMS agencies who are using UBMD emergency medicine EMS medical directors will still be supported directly by our UBMD EMS office. Agencies under other medical directions should contact their specific medical director or their local New York State Department of Health EMS office for further guidance. Thank you once again for your support over the last 2 decades. It has been an honor to serve alongside you. With gratitude and respect, the UBMD EMS Program Agency.
So this is, I mean, what, the second time that this has happened? We've seen program agencies shut down in the past because of this funding, and I'm not sure that there's an end in sight at the state level. You know, we're talking about budget stuff, and this budget's already been approved, and we still don't have that funding or the contracts. And here we are back, you know, again, talking about, you know, the budgets for all of these. And you know, rumor was that there was a raise even for program agencies that were supposed to be in this contract, and yet we still can't see a contract. So we'll see how this plays out over the next couple of months, but I'm sure that if they don't come through at some point, that this is just the first of many program agencies that are just gonna have to shut down without any other funding. REMAX.
Wait a minute.
What was the outcome of them closing down? Like, is there any?
This only happened this week.
Okay, so we don't really.
So we don't know, but I know that, like, there was
REMAX.
there was REMSCO meetings last night that I was on a meeting with someone from that area who had to get off to go to her REMSCO meeting. So REMSCOs are meeting and discussing this.
Well, I guess, I mean, what's the, you know, the cascading effect that would happen if a program agency was to not be there anymore? You said others have closed down.
Well, there
Susquehanna closed for a funding stream problem at one point, and they got the funding stream fixed and opened back up.
So they do just, they could eventually.
They
just
could. Nassau right now doesn't have a program agency. So,
The reason why I kind of want to bring it up here is because I knew Susquehanna went through this before, and it surprised me that it happened in Buffalo because Buffalo is so big, and I figured that they would have deeper pockets to sustain the hit longer, and obviously they just haven't. But the people that this type of thing will affect the most are us, because the program agency works for the REMSCO. So it's still our responsibility to make sure the deliverables happen. So if all of a sudden we don't have REMO, our program agency, doing frankly the work that the REMSCO asks for, we're legally responsible to do the work. So I just kind of want to make sure everybody here gets that, because that's our responsibility. So I don't know if there's something that we can do to kind of stand with Buffalo on this, or to, you know, help the state EMS office, or whatever they're called this week, get into, you know, better graces with folks that are turning the money around, or, you know, or how close are we to having this happen? How are our finances on this, you know?
I can't answer that. It would be a
Right.
Tim question.
Right, but I think those are questions that we gotta ask, right? Because you guys Reno, picked up a whole nother region that does a whole lot less calls and has a whole lot less money. But it still has this similar kind of work. So, you know, I think when I saw Susquehanna go through it, I went, well, all right, it's kind of a smaller and more rural area, like maybe it was just what it was. But to watch Buffalo, like, that's a big deal. So, I don't know, you know, is it worth taking a trip to the beginning of Putnam? Just to attend the REMSCO meetings? I know a handful of us are there anyhow, but, I don't know, what do you think, Tom?
I don't disagree, but, you know, we bring this up at every REMSCO meeting. I mean, it's a year in the making, right? And we're all screaming at program agency meetings, and we're not getting the answers, and the Bureau is saying it's not them. I don't know where to go beyond the Bureau.
So, do we want to draft a letter from our REMSCO? When, do we want to get together with the state REMSCOs and draft a letter to the governor? It's budget season.
It is budget season.
Is it
And
something
unfortunately, we don't, SEMSCO and CMAC, we don't meet until May,
Right,
which is
Past budget.
past budget season.
right.
So,
That's kind of why, do we want to do something? And, somebody kind of passed a joke, if she listens. I don't even expect her to listen.
I understand that.
No, I expect her to go, somebody deal with this.
I think it is good to, I think it would be good to draft a letter and send it,
Even if it's
but I don't
simple.
think it's gonna make a difference.
And again, I wouldn't ever advocate for going over Ryan's head unless Ryan has already said, look, I can't get this done, please go over my head.
Ryan has said it is absolutely okay to send letters, just please loop him in at the beginning because it loops back to him eventually and he likes to be aware.
So maybe just
that
a
fair?
simple, I mean very simple letter that simply says, hey, we saw this. We're really concerned because our finances are equally as upside down and we're still waiting for money from, and then put that in. Can you please look into it because if we cease to have a program agency, our 6-county region then relies on volunteers to get the necessary work done. Period. Nothing fancy.
would you like to draft that?
Yeah.
Who do you propose sending this letter to?
I'd send it straight to the governor.
To the governor?
Yeah.
I would also say, again, looking back historically, this isn't new hay we're cutting here.
No,
Back in the days, Phil.
I may quote
always
you
had
on
a-
that,
Phil-
Dave.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, Phil,
I'll put that right in the letter.
yeah, there you go. Phil, he was basically, he enjoyed the program, people that kept it going, and
Right.
they had an interest in it, because that's how they got paid. But Phil also had a couple of people in the legislature, he had a couple real close people that they were his go-tos. And when we got to this point, that's why we started borrowing money to begin with, was to make one end meet the other with these low interest loans. But Phil always had a couple people that he knew personally up in this area, that I think one was a senator and one was an assemblyman, he would reach out to, and they would have the magic spot touch, and then we would eventually, the money would come through. So I'm thinking not only the governor, but also I think we represent 6 counties here, correct? And each of these counties has people in the House of Representatives as well as in the Senate. And I think that's gonna get you more juice than sending something to the governor, not degrading the governor, but all she's gonna do is say, here, take care of this, and then it's gonna lay someplace where
They'll
at
put
least
the
if you reach
pressure.
out to the legislators as well, and copy everybody, and everybody sees their name on there, I'm just saying, it
So
might do
maybe-
a little better.
I kind of feel like that if we go over the governor's head, she's just gonna kind of look at this as, I think she's gonna, if she gets a letter from us or her assistant gets a letter from us, it's gonna be like, oh, this is a thing, get somebody to find out why we got this letter. I can deal with that. I don't expect groundbreaking movement off of this,
Oh, no, neither.
but I think that we could go over her head. I think all it's gonna do is.
But is it going over her head to talk to your elected
No,
representatives?
locally probably no, but I probably wouldn't go federal, I'd probably think state level or.
No, that's what I was referring
Yeah.
to, state assembly,
Like
state
Chris
legislature,
did. Right.
exactly, I don't mean,
Or just, right, Overrocker and Tague.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
So do that for
so-
mayor or Rocker Tag.
Between
So-
the 6 counties, I don't know how many assembly districts we're in, or how many senate districts, but the point is that there's,
So you got Santa Barbara
Santa Barbara.
for us, he was in charge of the rural ambulance
Right.
task force.
so
So,
that's what I meant, state
So that's-
assembly, state senate, not the UN, it's
so
just,
I'll try and draft something quickly while we're sitting
Yeah.
here, just the verbiage. But if is anybody opposed to doing this? I'd like to be able to say that this is unanimous from us, right? I think it makes more sense. And then I'll
100%.
shoot it to the two of you, and then you guys pick find out who it's appropriate to send to.
I think I'm not appropriate to send it. I
mean-
got fingers in too many
Yeah, okay.
pots in my employment.
I mean-
and
Technically, you work for us, so if we ask you to send a letter,
I'll sign
Right?
it.
It's just that it's so many gray lines.
I'll sign it as the chair,
Right.
what's
Yeah.
the,
yeah.
it's not a big deal.
Should we get the other program agencies around the state to jump on board?
Some have already done this already. There's letters already been sent.
Like, you want to be unanimous here, but if every program agency sent
So-
And I think it's beyond the program agency, I think it needs to be the REMSCOs.
Agreed,
Right,
right,
yeah, agreed,
it's
yeah.
REMSCOs. So I think after we send the letter, or when we send the letter, we can copy the other REMSCOs.
Right.
All right, cool. I'll work on something over here.
Okay.
Other deliverables, EPCR changes, Town of Pittsfield submitted a 5136 as part of their routine CON renewal. Fly Creek Volunteer Fire Company changed their administrator. Public access defibrillation, new pads, First Presbyterian Church, Cooperstown, Fenimore Farms, and Country Village, formerly known as the Farmers Museum, and Fenimore Art Museum are new. And we have 3 new providers with the region. AEMT Tyler Roy, new at Sydney, Alexis Gombach, new at Otsego County, and Gabriel Alani, new at Lake Valley.
REMAC. Anything?
Nothing. Next meeting is April 2nd at 2 o'clock via Zoom. Invitations will be sent out to all council members. And the hour before that, there will be a quality meeting. I think we're going to change the name to Performance Improvement. We are trying to get a representative from every agency in all 12 counties to at least be invited to and participate in the quality meeting.
All right. Training.
If you haven't seen already, new protocols rolled out to go into effect in July. I brought up the question before the meeting about, they had mentioned in there about iGels and regional approval. I don't know if you want me, I don't know if Alex, or if Vinny or Beth wants to, because you told me about it, maybe it's better if you say what the, I'm sure if I have the question, other people have a question about it.
Okay, so 2 things about this. If you want to see the protocol change log, it has been posted in policy 2501 and 2502 on the Bureau's website. The protocols go into effect 7/1 of 2025. I do know that Dr. Daly is planning on doing a voiceover PowerPoint of about 15 slides. The majority of them are formulary changes and just a few procedural changes. The question that Jim had was about iGel. iGel is still in demonstration project, waiting for the Commissioner of Health to sign off on it to become scope of practice. They're hoping that the 7/1 start time and the Commissioner's signature occur fairly seamlessly. If you want to start iGel before 7/1 of 2025, you need to enroll through and train as directed by the Hudson Valley REMSCO program agency. And that's all on their website.
And the whole rationale behind that is that I sat in the Education and Training Command, that committee, was the fact that if they cease the pilot program, that would mean that everybody that went through the pilot program would have to recertify again later. So by continuing the pilot program until the paperwork gets signed, at that point in time, when it gets signed, everybody will continue on, and then they'll just later on cease the pilot program because it will no longer be needed.
Right, and it meant that we didn't have to stop doing it
Exactly.
and then start doing it
Right.
again, which is confusing.
exactly.
Just keep a consistent practice going through.
And as you mentioned, anybody wants to get on board right now, all they gotta do is get a hold of Hudson Valley, and they're more than happy to do the paperwork and to start the program. Get yourself on board.
Other thing I wanted to bring up, I don't know what other counties are doing. Maybe you can share information on this. I know Fulton County, when it comes to rescue task force, we have a rescue task force team that's comprised of Johnstown and Gloversville Fire Department. I know we just recently had a meeting with Montgomery County about helping them if they have anything of our team being deployed down there. I bring it up because the State Preparedness Center has 5 training days coming up this year it's a pilot program for an integrated active threat response. It's basically half law enforcement, half EMS that go through the class together. If anybody did it before COVID, it was, they were separate. Law enforcement had their own, EMS had their own, and there hasn't been any classes for EMS since COVID. So,
Is this through dishes,
No, it's through
it's
Oriskany.
through,
which is
through
dishes?
state preparedness.
This, yes.
State,
And I forget the,
that's, yeah.
It's the,
out in Oriskany. May, July, August, September, December, there are classes for that. But I was curious, do any other counties have a EMS rescue task force?
What does an EMS rescue task force do? Help me.
Okay, so if, for example, if there's an active shooter in a school, EMS rescue task force is trained to go in while it's still a warm zone. So we're treating patients before law enforcement spends time clearing the entire building. For example, our task force, we have ballistic vests, helmets, we have, the kits and everything that we go in. We've been training with law enforcement, we've been going into different schools and training in the schools for different active threat situations. Our goal is to get into every school and train with every school in our county. But it's I don't know if any other counties have anything set up for an active shooter EMS response with RTF.
I know Delaware County's drilled it a few times,
right, but we don't have a team.
but you have a team.
Right.
Doesn't Albany County have one?
Albany County Sheriff's Office has kind of a pseudo thing that they do, but that's what they do.
So the training's out there, it started back up again, so. If anybody has,
I'll see if I can,
What nice thing about Oriskany is if you sign up for that course and you're more than 50 miles away, they put you up in a hotel right there for free.
yeah, there is no cost to attend the classes. I don't know if Maggie or Howard had anything else.
Maggie, anything?
Just that town hall thing they discussed yesterday for the AEMT course on the education call. So they're gonna do an advanced standing for EMT, AEMT, and talk about that in a town hall meeting through the Bureau. So I'm pretty interested in seeing what they have to say and how that's gonna play out. And they're hoping to do that in May. Is that correct, Howard? It was May, right?
So, yeah.
Some cool unofficial stuff that I can tell you just from working with the PSC worker. It's making great progress. Like I almost don't want to jinx it because things usually move at the speed of the state. But in under a year, it looks like we have a pilot program to stop the paramedic original practical skills exams as long as you meet accreditation standards and state policy. And it sounds like before a year's up, like in just a couple months in May, we're going to have a pilot program for the EMT course sponsorships to start also, so that they're tracking skills, they'll be able to opt out of the practical skills exam on top of that. So that's really cool. And then after that, we're going to look at AEMT, and then it'll pair into how we handle rapid research and CME recertification, because you can't sit in one room and be like, we have to have a PSC to check skills, and then be like, how many people recertified via CME last year? 10,000. Oh. So those two things are going to come together, and the group we've got is really, really good. They're doing a lot of good work, and it's moving along really nicely. So when we started it, I figured this was going to be a 3 to 4 year process. I think we're still on target for that, but it's some real effective changes. So it's nice to see. Paramedic program-wise stuff, you know me, I'm direct. If you know anybody who's even thinking about trying to get in for this fall, have them get a hold of me like today. We do technically still have spots left, but I will tell you that as of yesterday, we had 125 applicants between paramedic associates and paramedic certificate. The certificate class, that's only applicants, right? That doesn't mean they're all coming. But I can tell you that I have 42 that have already either scheduled an interview or had an interview. And our class caps at 35, and I have no extra room on that. So even if you know somebody who you think might be trying to go next year, have them get a hold of me now, because at least we can get them in for some A&P stuff and get them in the hopper. If they make the wait list this year, we give them priority seating for next year. So I know people are screaming like, can we expand, can we take more? SUNY as a whole is kind of not in a great financial position, and until we get like huge numbers where we can actually open up a full second lab section, it just doesn't make financial sense to do it. And what we don't want to do is make this bigger and water down the education. So we'd rather put out, 30 to 35 good paramedics a year than 60 and still only 30 to 35 good paramedics a year. So, and the last thing on that is regarding A&P. I was speaking with our A&P instructor this morning. We are going to be offering a hybridized A&P in the fall that will be asynchronous for half of it. So the lectures will be recorded lectures with assignments, and then you will come to campus 1 day a week for testing and labs for probably a 12-week section of time instead of a 15. But so all the EMS providers that are trying to get this done prior to coming to paramedic school should be able to do A&P by physically coming to campus probably 12 times instead of 45 in a semester.
So when is that starting, Howard?
In the fall. When I get it together, I'll kick it out to everybody.
Is it something that you guys are gonna continue to do, or are you just piloting it?
No, well, I mean, look, as long as people take the class, we'll continue to do it. But if we can run that in the fall and then an in-person 5-weeker in the summer, I think that should cover most of our students. We're losing a fair amount of people to Cayuga Community College, which thank goodness they're taking our students online, but it's a wholly online class. And not to like pat her back, but Laura